What if I told you that some of the United States, actual states on the map, might not exist in a few decades? Entire regions swallowed by the sea, scorched by fire, abandoned by people, or fractured by economic collapse. This isn't science fiction. It's already happening. Right now, across America, states we take for granted are slowly crumbling under the weight of climate change, resource depletion, and political or economic decay. In this video, we're diving deep into 10 U.S. states that are teetering on the edge. States that, if nothing changes, might not survive in their current form. If you're fascinated by geography, politics, or just want to know what the future might really look like, you're in the right place, so buckle up. But before we start, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're pulling back the curtain and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's dive in. Louisiana is facing an existential threat due to extreme coastal erosion, sea level rise, and subsidence. Since the 1930s, the state has lost more than 2,000 square miles of land, an area larger than Delaware. Wetlands that once acted as natural storm barriers are vanishing at a rate of nearly a football field every 100 minutes. The causes include oil and gas drilling, river levying, and rising seas linked to climate change. The consequences are severe. New Orleans, already below sea level, becomes increasingly vulnerable to hurricanes. Communities like Isle de Jean-Charles have nearly disappeared, forcing residents to relocate. The island has lost 98% of its land. As the coast disappears, Louisiana also risks losing cultural heritage, vital ecosystems, and key portions of its $2.4 billion seafood industry. If nothing changes, large swaths of the state could become uninhabitable within decades, effectively erasing parts of Louisiana from the map. California's combination of environmental extremes and socioeconomic instability puts parts of the state at existential risk. Wildfires have burned millions of acres in recent years. 2020 alone saw over 4 million acres scorched. Towns like Paradise have been wiped off the map entirely. Drought is also worsening, with over 98% of the state experiencing some level of drought in recent years. Meanwhile, housing costs and homelessness are skyrocketing. In 2023, California had over 181,000 unhoused individuals, the highest of any state. As climate disasters increase and infrastructure struggles to keep up, residents are leaving. More than 500,000 people moved out between 2020 and 2022. If trends continue, we may see abandonment of fire-prone rural towns and shrinking urban cores. California isn't likely to lose statehood, but it could lose large tracts of livable land, becoming a shell of its economic powerhouse status and leading to regional collapses in housing, farming, and energy. Florida's low-lying geography and growing population make it one of the most vulnerable states to climate change. About 75% of Florida's population lives along the coast, with Miami in particular facing frequent tidal flooding, known as sunny day floods. According to NOAA, sea levels around Florida are expected to rise 10 to 12 inches by 2040, putting billions in infrastructure at risk. In South Florida, saltwater is intruding into the Biscayne aquifer, threatening freshwater supplies. Meanwhile, insurance companies are pulling out of the state due to increased storm damage, making homeownership unaffordable for many. If sea level rise continues as projected, up to 6 million Floridians could be displaced by the end of the century. Entire communities, especially in the Florida Keys and Miami Beach, may become uninhabitable. The state might not vanish legally, but physically and economically, it's already beginning to fracture under environmental and financial strain. Arizona is facing a severe water crisis that could make much of the state unlivable. The Colorado River, which supplies roughly 36% of Arizona's water, is drying up due to overuse and declining snowpack. Lake Mead and Lake Powell, its key reservoirs, hit historic lows in 2022. In response, Arizona agreed to cut its water use by 21% under a federal plan, deeply affecting agriculture. Pinal County has already seen cuts to irrigation, forcing farmers to fallow land. Meanwhile, Phoenix and Tucson continue to grow rapidly despite declining water availability. The state is also experiencing increasing heat, with Phoenix hitting a record 31 consecutive days of 110-degree F plus temperatures in 2023. With less water and more heat, some towns may become ghost towns. Arizona's future may involve consolidating populations into fewer cities, with rural and agricultural zones fading out, effectively erasing large parts of the state's economic and geographic identity. West Virginia is dealing with economic and demographic collapse. Once a coal empire, the state has seen that industry all but vanish. Coal employment dropped from over 100,000 in the mid-20th century to under 12,000 today. With no clear replacement economy, West Virginia is bleeding residents. It lost nearly 3.5% of its population between 2010 and 2020, one of the highest rates nationwide. Many counties have shrinking tax bases, school closures, and aging populations. At the same time, opioid addiction is ravaging communities, with West Virginia having the highest rate of overdose deaths in the country. Some towns have fewer than 1,000 residents left and are effectively collapsing into ghost towns. While the state isn't disappearing off the map, it's disappearing in terms of relevance, economic contribution, and livability. Without massive investment or transformation, large areas may eventually be abandoned, making West Virginia a state in name only. We're halfway through this countdown, and if your jaw hasn't dropped yet, it might soon. But now, I want to hear from you. Which of these states surprises you the most? Are there any you think we missed? Could your home state be next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Also, let me know what you'd like to see next. More on climate collapse? Urban ghost towns? Maybe even which countries are most at risk of disappearing? Your feedback drives this channel forward. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps more than you know, and it lets us keep bringing you thought-provoking content just like this. Alaska is warming faster than any other U.S. state, about 3 times the global average. As permafrost thaws, infrastructure is collapsing, roads buckle, pipelines shift, and buildings sink. Entire communities like Shishmaref and Nutak are relocating due to coastal erosion and melting ground. Over 30 Alaska native villages are at imminent risk of being uninhabitable. Melting glaciers also reduce freshwater availability and fish populations, affecting subsistence lifestyles. At the same time, oil, Alaska's economic lifeline, is drying up. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline, which once pumped 2 million barrels a day, is down to less than 500,000. Climate change is cutting into tourism and threatening traditional industries. While Alaska's statehood won't legally disappear, vast regions are becoming inaccessible or unsafe. In coming decades, it's possible that rural Alaska will cease to function as part of the state in any meaningful way, creating a void where communities once thrived. Nevada's existence is tightly bound to water, and it's running out. Las Vegas depends on Lake Mead, which dropped to 26% capacity in 2022. Climate change and overuse of the Colorado River mean this reservoir may no longer sustain its user base. Nevada also has one of the lowest water allocations from the river, placing it in an especially vulnerable position. At the same time, the state continues rapid development. Las Vegas grows by over 2% per year, consuming more land and water. Groundwater pumping for suburbs and agriculture has already collapsed aquifers in some rural regions. Meanwhile, extreme heat and drought are increasing, threatening agriculture and livability. With constrained water, continued growth becomes impossible. If water scarcity worsens, the state may be forced to depopulate parts of its territory, especially rural areas. Without significant adaptation, large sections of Nevada could become unsustainable, rendering parts of the state effectively extinct. Mississippi faces a slow-motion disappearance due to poverty, population loss, and climate vulnerability. It is the poorest state in the U.S., with a poverty rate of 19.1% in 2023. That economic stagnation is driving people away. Mississippi lost around 50,000 residents over the last decade. Infrastructure is deteriorating. Jackson, the state capital, suffered a complete failure of its water system in 2022. Meanwhile, The Gulf Coast faces increasing hurricane threats and sea level rise, with projections of over 1 foot by 2050. The state also ranks last in healthcare, education, and internet access. With minimal economic opportunity, young people are leaving, and rural counties are becoming depopulated. The Mississippi Delta, once a rich agricultural region, is now dotted with shuttered towns. If current trends continue, the state could become a hollowed-out shell, with a few urban areas surrounded by largely abandoned or failing rural regions, making its functional existence questionable. Illinois is experiencing severe demographic and financial distress. Between 2010 and 2020, it lost more residents than any other state outside of California and New York. High property taxes, pension debt exceeding $140 billion, and crumbling infrastructure are driving both businesses and people away. Chicago, while still a major economic hub, is facing rising crime, fiscal deficits, and population decline. Downstate Illinois, once vibrant with manufacturing and agriculture, is now seeing ghost towns emerge. Entire counties are losing schools, hospitals, and local governments due to declining tax bases. The state government struggles to maintain services, and continued political gridlock has worsened public confidence. If fiscal collapse accelerates and outmigration continues, Illinois could see internal fragmentation, regions demanding autonomy or merging services with neighboring states. While not disappearing formally, it could lose cohesion, with parts of the state functionally operating as separate entities, leading to a fractured, unsustainable governance model. Hawaii faces a unique existential crisis, combining environmental and political instability. Rising sea levels threaten low-lying islands and coastal infrastructure. Some projections show up to 40% of Oahu's beaches could disappear by 2050. The state is also heavily reliant on imports. 90% of food and goods come from the mainland, making it extremely vulnerable to supply chain disruptions. The housing crisis is driving out local residents. In 2023, the median home price in Honolulu was over $900,000. Native Hawaiians are being priced out of their ancestral lands. Wildfires, like the devastating 2023 Lahaina fire on Maui, show that climate change is reshaping the islands dramatically. Meanwhile, sovereignty movements are growing louder, with some activists pushing for Hawaiian independence. Combined, these forces could lead to a diminished and depopulated Hawaii, either through environmental erosion, economic exodus, or political fracture. While statehood isn't ending soon, parts of Hawaii might become uninhabitable or unrecognizable within decades. The United States has always been seen as permanent, unshakable, a land defined by unchanging borders and states. But as we've seen today, even giants can fall, the land can vanish, the people can leave, and the systems we rely on can break down. These 10 states are canaries in the coal mine, warning us of what's coming if we don't act. But awareness is the first step. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive content, and share this with someone who still thinks climate change and demographic collapse are distant threats. Because the truth is, they're already here. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.